Hello there, and welcome to the FanFiAddict Book Club, episode 3. I am Frasier Armitage, a part-time robot, full-time nerd, all-time conspiracy theorist over handsome guys in books.
And I'm MJ Kuhn, the president of the Fritz hating fan club. And this is our third and final discussing chapter sections episode of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill.
Yeah, it's the big one. It's the one where we spoil everything.
Spoil the whole book.
Yeah. Last time we read up to the end of chapter 22. So this time we're just doing from 23 on all the way to the end. So this is going to be pretty much everything that there is to say about this book. So if you've missed the first discussions that we've had about it, go back, tune in, find out why MJ hates Fritz, and find out what theories I have about handsome guys. If that's not a tease, I don't know what is, right?
I love it. And if you haven't finished reading the book yet, pause this episode and go, because we're gonna spoil the whole thing. We're talking about all of it.
Oh yeah.
Fair warning. Yeah. You've been warned. Yeah. Well, Frasier, what are your 3 words, overall impression words for this final chunk of this book?
I have 3 words, and they are in this order: elves, dwarves, kings.
Very fair.
That's basically the last third of the book, right?
That's all of it. Yeah. There's a lot of all of those things in the last third of the book.
What about you? What's your 3 words that sums up this section?
So I cheated again, and I have a hyphenated word. But I did expansive, fast-paced, and launch pad. Because I'm expansive. We went from, I feel like the first 2/3 of this book, we started really small in our little corner of the world with Callan and the gang. And then we expand, in this third, like you said, we've got elves, we've got dwarves, we've got kingdoms, we've got power struggles and politics and whatever. And all of these things where we were all worried about the town council from back in the glade. And now it's oh no, he's just vibing with kings of men and dwarves and elves and whatever else. It was very expansive. And then that's why I said launch pad too, which is this is very clearly the point where it's this is where this series is going. This series started as a small story about a little country boy hunting in the woods, and now this is our launch pad to the rest of it.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's such a good way of looking at it as a launch pad, because it gives you a really good expectation for what is ahead, but also for what the rest of the book feels like. If you're one of the people who's listening to this because you like spoilers and you've not read this book, what you need to expect from this ending is that everything that you've read up until now is kind of just the building blocks, and then the book doesn't kind of sort of end with something which makes you feel oh, okay, yeah, that's what it was building to. It just constructs this giant launch pad from which the rest of the series will kick off from. So
right.
I feel in that way it's a huge success, but in terms of the way that the story laid out and everything like that, me as a reader, I was just how many more things is Ryan going to put in this book?
There's so much in this world. Yeah, well, and my first thought as I finished it, I closed it and I was well, all of our theories about how this book was going to end were wrong. But in our defense, we didn't know about dwarf kingdoms yet. You know what I mean? So it was you're introduced to a whole lot of new elements, which again, I should have researched this once again before we started this episode, but I didn't again. I don't know how many books are in the series so far. I don't know how many are planned, but I know it's a lot of books and I know they're fat. So it's clearly this is where we're getting into just the kind of meat of the world that we're gonna be traveling in and enjoying for the rest of the series, whenever we get into it. So
So
Yeah.
in the front of this edition, it looks as though there's 4 novels and 3 novellas and a couple of short stories.
Okay.
So it's like, it's a lot of chunk, right? Um, it's a lot of chunk. If you just tuned in, welcome to It's a Lot of Chunk.
It's a lot of chunky books.
I'll tell you one of the theories that I was very I'm not going to say disappointed in the way that it worked out, but one of the things that I feel like I'm worried for Ryan is the handsome guy theory, because the whole time, right? If you've watched the previous 2 episodes, you'll know that my take on handsome men in fantasy books, when written by a male author, is that they're gonna be bad because the handsome men, if you're a 10, the handsome men have got to be inaccessible, or there's something wrong with them in order to make the male writer who's writing them. It's basically his way of being able to get back at all the handsome guys. So that theory with Rhett, I was convinced this guy was Dodge. Totally convinced this guy was Dodge.
You had me convinced by the time we finished the last section. I was like, yeah, okay. I think that there's the uncle. There's going to be trouble, which I do still think Ella may end up having some trouble with this uncle character. Yeah. But yet, like, Rhett is just dead.
Exactly, right?
Like, nope, okay.
Like, Ryan's supposed to take down these guys a peg or 2, not kill them. That's like, that makes me worried for Ryan, because I'm like, it's, I worry for the way that if he meets a handsome guy in real life, what's going through that man's mind? Like, I will have to ask him. But in terms of like the theory, what this does to the theory is that by the end of this book, everyone who is described as handsome is either dead or bad. So basically, if you see a handsome guy, don't get attached is the new theory, right? Because there's something that will happen to this guy.
Be tragic or sketchy.
Well, tragic either way, right? It's like, yeah. So that's the amended handsome guy theory.
We are expanding upon the handsome man theory.
Yeah, I like it. Going to be dead or bad.
Well, speaking of characters we don't trust, we can talk a little bit about Damon. Was he described as handsome? I don't know that he was. He was described as distinctly uncharismatic.
Yes, he was. Like, his dad was described as handsome, but not Damon. Damon was described as like not quite his dad. So
yeah, like here's the thing: like the second Damon appears on page, I literally underlined it and I just wrote, "I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this guy." And here's the thing: like even by the end of this book, there's really no it actually says I don't trust dis mofo is what my note actually says. But yeah, like, because then, okay, when he's in, when they're in the dwarf kingdom, and the Arthur has to go back up, and he's like, Damon has fallen ill. I was like, suspicious. I don't buy it. I think that Damon, like, yeah, okay, he's being like detained and tortured by the Fade at the end. I don't buy it. I think that he did this. I think he set it up. I think that he orchestrated this, and like that's how the baddies got in. That is my theory, which is unconfirmed.
Even if, right, he didn't do all of that, he is going to be bad in the next. You can just tell, right? You can tell
he's got bad aura.
Yeah, his feng shui is off, right?
Just I don't trust him. It's not a vibe.
When the dad was like ill and everything, and he said like, so this is on this page, he said to Callan, "I believe in who you are." I underlined that and just drew a skull and crossbones and just put "he dead." And then like in a couple of paragraphs later, it's like Damon has fallen ill, and I just wrote, "Here it comes." Like
that's like, it. Here it is.
You just knew it's like this is it. This is the way it is.
Yeah, well, and you'd said in our last episode that you thought that before the end of this book, someone else was going to die for Callan. I wouldn't say that Arthur necessarily died for Callan specifically, but we also were like, oh, it'll be like another father figure. Not that he was, but he was kind of starting to maybe step into that role. And then Ryan was just like, stab you guys in the heart and take him away.
I have a question about one of the chapters that happens. Okay, so
Okay.
we've got like, so elves are like Klingons because they've like very honor bound. Dwarves are like very political, so they're a little bit like Romulans. So I kind of like I'm getting the like Star Trek analogies like bang on, but like but I feel like Dan and Darlin are going to be like the Marquis. They're going to be like the little rebel splinter group that break off from like the Federation to sort of do their own thing, because like their little like conversation in the pub. Like, how did you feel about that scene? Was that like,
Dude, Dallin, the entire back end of this book, I was getting worse and worse vibes from Dallin. And at that end of that scene, I literally just wrote, I think my note in the margin was like, Dallin is going to be a problem in book 2. Like he's going to become a problem with a capital P for Callan. He could come back around, right? Like he may do like a Murtag thing from Aragon, right? Where we've got this guy that's a friend and then ends up an enemy in the middle, and then spoiler for the inheritance cycle, I guess, but circles back around, in many regards at the end. So we may see that, but I do think that he's jealous, he's bitter, he's like seeing all these things. He's got I call it bitch eating crackers syndrome, because there's this like, I think it's like a Tumblr post circa 2008 or something that was like, when you're pissed off at somebody, everything they do annoys you. Like, look at that bitch over there eating her crackers. Like, so anytime someone like, he's got bitch eating crackers syndrome for Callan, because he's arrogant, he's this, he's that. He's just like he's seeing the worst in Callan at every single step. And I don't know that I agree with you that Dan's going to go with it. Maybe he will. But Dan seemed very uncomfortable in that conversation. He seemed very like not wanting to like upset Dallin, but very much not agreeing with him on these things, So
I felt it was like a seed planting scene for like what will get you payoff in future books.
yeah.
But it was like, I thought just that conversation of, well, it should have been me. Don't you feel the same, Dan? And Dan's like, I don't want to talk about this. Like at some point, there's a simmer there that's like there's underneath, right? Because Rist, like we talked about last week, Rist is off doing like getting corrupted by the dark side. Like he's on his full Anakin Skywalker journey. We're like with Callan and his magic and his dragon, and he's the Draleed and all of this, and then Dan's just kind of like,
Dan.
yeah,
Just
I'll
Dan.
just drink. I'll just drink and ignore the problem. I'll drink the problem away. And then Dallin comes along and he's like, it should have been us.
Yeah.
And then it's like the little Palpatine in the ear thing.
That's fair. Like he's the devil on Dan's shoulder, and if he whispers enough, we could see Dan kind of fall. I can see it. I can see it because I had
Dan
said
being
last
like,
episode that I could see Dan turning. So
yeah. I have this worry that there's going to be this big argument between Dan and Callan in a future book, that then all of this comes out and you're going to get payoff for all of this. So yeah, I feel like a lot of the payoff for what this book sets up is going to be in the future. Tell me about the elves. What did you think to the elves?
Okay, so I liked the elves. I like the elves fine. I think the what's the one that's training him, the tough love training elf guy's name?
Yeah. What's his name?
You know me and names. I'm never gonna know. That guy, the one guy. He's got a cool name.
Loses his arm, right?
It's like a bunch of syllables.
It's like a something like that.
Oh, I think it starts with a G, doesn't it?
Does it? It's
Galeron.
Yeah, that guy.
Mm-hmm. That guy.
Yeah.
I like him because I think he's kind of a dick. Like, you know, but it's like, I think he's like the tough love that Callan needs to get better. So I liked him. I also, there's something is going on. Well, what do we think is going on between Theron? Did I miss something? Do we know why the other elves don't like Theron?
There's backstory there.
I was going to say, there's backstory that we don't get.
Yeah.
But it seems like Theron has either history or maybe just that one elf woman is like sympathetic toward his plight or whatever, because there was a couple little mentions of them having like what
Yeah, I
like
think so.
just having some like interactions with each other, like they seem like they have a history potentially. But yeah, no, what were your thoughts about the elves? Because I thought it was interesting that they did this whole like sworn honor guard, and then he just like immediately leaves them behind.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
What was really so what I liked about the elves is that I think that that's the closest to like a Lord of the Rings introduction of a character that I've seen. Like when I say a Lord of the Rings introduction of characters, like when you first meet Gandalf, it's all sketchy with Frodo, and then they start laughing, and you're like, oh no, these guys are just like ribbing each other, like because they love each other. And then when you meet like Aragorn, you're like, oh, Strider in the pub, he's like, oh, is it Strider? Is it Striker?
it's Strider.
Yeah, my brain's going nuts. But
We're
like,
in top form today.
yes, we're not tired at all. This is not what's happening.
We're great.
So yeah, so when you meet him, he's all like sort of like, is he a bad guy? It's like, no, he's there to save them. And like everybody seems to be different to how they're first introduced. So like when the elf who's obviously like completely against Callan and hates him ends up being the most useful one to him, I was like, I trust that dude immediately.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's got like, I think in fantasy, you've got these kinds of vibes where you get introduced to a character and you kind of just almost assume that they're going to be opposite to how they're portrayed. You're like expecting it somehow. And that played out with the elves really nicely. So yeah, so I don't trust one of them quite as much. The one that was all sort of like the prettiest one. It was like,
Yeah.
I will give myself to you, Callan. And then later on is kind of like, you know, like spending time with Darlin. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Right.
Like,
See, that's what I'm saying. Dallin is gonna be he's gonna be okay. So you know how well, I don't know if you watch Stranger Things, but like in every season of Stranger Things, they like to have obviously they have the big mystical big bad, and then they like to have like a human bad. You know what I mean? Like a human level bad guy character. I think Dallin is gonna become our like human level bad guy character for Callan, while he's also dealing with and fighting the big bad to just like fully complicate it.
he's going to be like the next Fritz, right?
Dude, yeah, we don't see Fritz at all in this whole section, which as the president of the Fritz hating fan club, I was fine with. But I was surprised. Now, I think we kind of touched on this when we talked last episode too, where I was like, I think a lot of my predictions are going to actually come to fruition in like book 2, book 3. And that is what happened. I think the only thing we got right at the end of last episode was saying that we didn't think their wrist was going to, you know, reconvene with Callan and the crew, and he didn't. So we got that right at least. Oh, and I was not right at all about the Wolfie Boy, but the Wolfie Boy is back.
Wolfie Boy's back.
I like that.
I like that Fanny is back. I like it. I just want to show you like I won't show it. I'll just tell you when I was so pleased with this because I'm just flicking back through my notes now. And like when Arthur's introduced, there's a line that says the man was so charismatic that every word that came out of his mouth felt like it was plucked straight from his heart. Next to that line, I put, he's so dead.
It's like the beginning of a documentary when they're like, she lit up every room she walked into, and you're like, oh no, this is the victim. Yeah. Yup.
There is a word, right? There is a word that I spotted that is in this section, and I think it's been in every section that we've read, and that's not a normal, like, common word. It's the word eldritch. Like, it's describing, like, the sky or the woodland or that kind of thing. I'm like, I think Ryan has a thing for the word eldritch.
I like the word eldritch as well. You know, what other uncommon word I noticed in a couple of sections, which I noticed with appreciation? Susurration. Or like the susurruses. I love the word susurrus. It's just a very fun word. And I noticed that word too. This is just if we're getting nitty gritty.
I feel like we should write a book where those are the names of the two characters. There's like Susurrus and Eldritch. Yeah.
What a duo.
Like a detective.
I was literally just going to say like a buddy cop movie with Susurrus and Eldritch.
Yeah, but a fantasy buddy cop. That would be great.
We got to talk about the dwarves and the wind tunnels, which we have not talked about yet.
So wind tunnels, every time that happened, I underlined it and wrote
Frasier is like 9.
I'm so childish, but I was like, wind tunnels. What a great name for
But
your
they
book.
were cool. I liked that part.
Mm.
I thought that was very interesting. Good, like I thought that was really cool world building and like a cool element that we had. What are your thoughts on the dwarves? Like as a general thing, like their kind of just staunch refusal to help.
Yeah, they kind of like just bury their head in the sand.
Right? Where they're like, this feels like problems for other people. It's not coming to our door, so
Lots of bureaucracy, too many councils, too many things, too many voices. I think that the situation with regard to the dwarves is that Ryan was building something which gives you context for later events in that section. Thought the way that he described where they live was very long but very beautiful. And if you're quite happy to go on a side quest at that point in the book, then it's a really lovely side quest. I did feel as though it's very much sort of like we are underneath you, but we are never coming back to the surface. We are safe here.
yeah.
And they're wanting to protect their feelings of safety, which I understand. But then if there is, it's then a case of how big is the threat to the whole of the world. It does feel as though, like there's some stories where like the entire world is involved. It feels like this is one of those. This series is going to reach every place.
But you're always going to have those holdouts. And I kind of love it when we see that stuff in SFF. Because like I guess you do see it in like in terms of like the Galactic Council and whatever, but like in Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Because first we're talking about Mass Effect because it's me. But I always found it like really funny, not funny, but like, are we sure that would be the case? Or is like all of Earth is just like one unit? As though there's not going to be players on Earth that'll be like, no, we're not giving our country's resources to this. And so I always really enjoy in fiction when I see nods to that, like, bad, unfortunate reality of nationalism. How's that? Where it's like, just oftentimes there's gonna be, that holdout that's like, no, yeah, okay, this is a full world problem. If you say so, we're pretty safe right here, so you guys can go fuck yourselves. Like, so that was kind of the impression I got from what their vibe is in those conversations. And okay, what about Callan's like little speech?
Well, one thing I did want to say about the dwarves is what I really liked is all of the little aspects of world building, like, and the little expressions they use, like "May your fire never be extinguished and your blade never dull."
Oh,
I was like, that's a really, really good sort of like way of segregating them from the rest of the world, even in the way that they are communicating with each other and all of this kind of stuff. Like, how in Redwall each like species has its own like thing, like for itself. I feel like that was the case with the dwarves. They have their own thing that you got to tap into.
Yeah, it's like a culture, right? Like it makes it feel more real, more lived in, that these people have their own customs, their own sayings, their own culture. Yeah.
In terms of Callan's speech, I feel like that serves the theme of this whole, everything we've been talking about in the first 2 episodes about what the theme of this book is, which is like, what kind of a man are you? There's just, the dwarves even tell him, they say like, we need to know the depth of your character. We need to know who you are. It's like, that's everything, right? And he's basically saying, look, this is me. I will die for you. I will fight for you. I will do whatever I can. I can't promise I'll win because I've never won a fight in my entire life. I needed my wolf to save me, and then I've lost to everybody since. The only thing I've ever won is an axe throwing contest, but I will fight for you. Like that's basically like, that shows that he's a good guy, even though he abandoned his wolf and his woman.
I know, we don't even hear about Anya. Like, she's just like,
I know,
chopped liver, man. Like, okay.
Should we do some series theories?
Sure, let's do some serious theory. Oh, I have one more thing to say about the dwarves, though,
Oh yeah.
and it's a beef that I have with dwarves everywhere in fiction. So it's not specific to Ryan because everyone does this. The dwarves always fight with very close range hand to hand combat weapons. We always have dwarves with battle axes or like the hammers or whatever. They are so small in stature. Would it not make more sense for a dwarf to have a ranged weapon? Can we get dwarven archers? They can have crossbows or something because, if their arms are short enough that they can't really get a good draw on just like a longbow. Like, this is neither here nor there for this book specifically. This is just a beef I have with Lord of the Rings. It does it. This book does it. Everything, anything like Forgotten Realms. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Do you know what?
A beef I have.
The other thing that goes along with that, though, is that they don't use their small stature to their advantage because they carry around all these massive weapons that are really like hard to use. Why not use like tiny little daggers and then just go like, be one of those
you could have
things.
assassins that have just little daggers, and then you could have your like ranged ones. Like, yeah. I'm just saying. Or if you're gonna have weapons, have them carry like a pole axe or a spear, something that gives them a little more reach.
Or like have them be in like big suits, like exoskeleton suits that like soup them up so that they can.
They're like Iron Man. Got it.
Yeah. Yes. Come on, who doesn't want to see that, right? And the other thing is they're always underground. They're always underground.
They are. See, that doesn't bother me because like they can do their whole like mining thing, and which is probably where the like hammers and axes come from because they're like welding stuff and smashing rocks with hammers and like making cool weapons and shit. I'm just saying, if you writers out there or readers, if you know books where there are dwarven archers, hit me up.
I feel as well as though, like, because of their small stature, they wouldn't be underground. They would be building the tallest possible buildings.
Oh, they're because they have like
palaces that reach into the sky. Or... So it's like you look at this and you think, wow, like this is for giants, and then you walk in and they're dwarves. That to me would be like make more sense than like, I'm small, I'm gonna go live underground. Like I don't know. They're like mine. Right. The one thing that changes my mind on that is the song Diggy Diggy Hole. If you've not heard the song Diggy Diggy Hole, immediately go and look at it by Windrose. It will, from this, you know what? Let's put a link in the description. We're not affiliated in any way with
like,
Windrose
I don't even
the band.
know what this is. But I will put a link in the description box.
You are honestly, it will make you want to be a dwarf. It's amazing. It's like, you talked about nationalism, like, watch Diggy Diggy Hole, your perspective on the dwarves will change. You'll be like, I'm opting out with those guys, like, 100%.
Let's go. Oh my God. All right, yes, but let's do some series theories now that I'm done with my soapbox about dwarves and their need for ranged weapons. I have one theory that I haven't shared at all yet, because there is a specific line, and it's just like a throwaway line. And I don't even know what exactly the line is. I can't remember, but it's something to the effect of like, well, nobody can fly. No mage you can't fly as a mage. And I was like, oh, Rist is going to fly. That is my like one serious theory. Cause Damon is equals bad guy was the other one. And then Dallin will cause trouble for Callan was my third like serious theory that I had. In addition to all the theories that we had last episode that like, Haim is alive and we're gonna see, like all of that still stands, but those are my new ones.
Look at us looking for like resolutions to the plot. It's like there's no there's no resolutions in this book.
I know, it's a book one. We overestimated our lives.
Basically every theory we've had up to now is a serious theory. So I just listed like unanswered questions. Fritz, Dallin, Dan, Damon, Haim. I feel those are the main ones. I feel like Rist is going to go bad. I wrote in giant letters across the top of my book. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can. Sneaky, for how they're like getting to Rist. So there's going to be sneaky, right?
Oh yeah, where they're like, oh yeah, we
Mm,
totally sent the
we
letters
made
to
a
your loved ones.
guide.
Like,
Yeah.
all right,
And then
gaslighter.
the Rist says like, "Thank you, brother Garamond." And I was just like, so it begins.
Yeah,
And this is it. It's like sneaky. I feel like obviously the Draleed is gonna suffer some losses. I'm more worried. I'm more worried for Callan now than I am for Ella. Um, and I don't know. I feel like now that all the handsome people are dead, I don't have a clear indication of where it's going. But
someone
but yeah,
needs to get handsome before book 2, or we don't know
yeah,
who's gonna
we need
die.
some more handsome people in book 2. But this book was just like stacked with handsome people, like, and yeah, they all end badly. So yeah, I tell you what I did like that was really cool, and that's the way that they get rid of the fade. I liked the dragon fire on like the fade. I thought that scene, that moment of that scene was cool.
That
So
was very cool. Yeah, we didn't even talk
yeah.
about the fade at all. God, we suck. Yeah, let's talk about the final battle a little bit before we go author hat mode. Yeah. So I think that I agree. I think it was a really cool way to have the like fire breathing, because there were all these things like, well, sometimes they can breathe fire at a month, sometimes it takes them 3 months, sometimes la 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 la, we don't know how long it's going to take. And then it was like pretty cool. It was like right when it was most needed, that like he just made it happen, captain, you know.
Oh man, we this is going to be so. I love your commentary on scenes and stuff. Like this is so cool. Like all the books that we're going to be reading, and I'm going to have all these phrases.
You're
Like I'm
gonna have
never going
all
to be able
these
to read
like
the same. I'm like, you
random
made it
American
happen,
phrases.
Captain.
Yeah.
Like
You'd be like, what? But yeah, he made it
this
happen,
character's
captain.
eating them crackers. Like it's.
Bitch eating cracker syndrome. It's real. It's you're welcome for that one, viewers, because you'll use it all the time. You'll be like, oh my god, that person has such bitch eating cracker syndrome. Or sometimes I have bitch eating cracker syndrome for somebody. If they're driving me nuts, I'm like, okay, I gotta calm down. I'm having bitch eating cracker syndrome. But anyways, the fade.
Yeah, the Fade is like your perfect example of overpowered villain, thinks he's invincible, underestimates the good guy, snuffed out at the end.
Yeah.
I just liked it how the dragon was the one that got rid of him. Like it wasn't any of the human characters. This dragon is like super important, and it enforces the way that this series is going to go, which is that Callan and the dragon together, this Draleed, is like super important to everything. I do feel though, with it being the bound and the broken, that obviously he's bound right now. I do worry about the dragon. I feel like that's where. So like, if I was putting on, I'm gonna be wrong on this because I've been wrong about everything else. But if I was putting on my plot hat, I'd be like, if a mage can fly, Rist gon' fly, Rist gon' kill dragon, right?
Ooh, that would be
Rist kills Valoris,
brutal.
right? That to me would be like where it's going, and that makes Callan broken, and then it's a case of, you know,
Interesting.
you can see it, right?
See,
So
well, that brings a really interesting part that we haven't talked about yet. But Rakina, or Broken, we find out in this section of the book that Aeson is broken. I like that. I really like that. It explains a lot about why he's so like whatever strict, or whatever we want to say, like with Callan, because he's like, not only is it super important for the, future of the world that this dragon bound boy and dragon survive and become strong, but also I wonder if he's carrying like some like survivor's guilt situation for his own situation, and he's like, I need to make Callan as strong as possible so that he can defend Valeris in a way I couldn't defend my dragon, or whatever the case was. So I thought that was a good inclusion in this section as well.
Do you know what I was fully expecting in the final battle? Urex.
Yeah, we didn't get that.
Didn't get no Urex. I feel
Interesting.
like they were sort of like teed up as being like the big army
Yeah,
against
like
like
the main, like the henchmen of all the bad guys.
yeah, and then we didn't get no Urex. But we didn't get very much battle, did we? We just kind of like got thrown in. It's like
Yeah,
we got
I feel like we missed all the good parts. Not all the good parts. Obviously, we have the fight with the Fade, which was really
yeah,
cool. But I do feel like we missed a lot of the action, which we can talk about more in author hat section too.
yeah.
Which are we ready for author hat, or do you have
Should we do
other?
it?
Let's do
Let's do
it.
our author hats, and then we'll do after author hats. We'll do like
We'll
the
do like
final
overall impression.
verdict. Yeah.
I like it. Oh, my author hat has cat hair all over it. Just like everything else in my house. Okay, author hat time. So
Who wants to be an author first, MJ? I feel like you have things to share. You've instigated the author hat. So let's go to you first.
I do have things to share. Well, and here's I think well, we can just start where we just left off in the reader hat section, because I wish that we would have seen more of the battle, and we have POV characters that were there. We have Dan. We just saw him talking to Dallin in the pub. I would have loved like just like a jump cut snippet, right? Like a couple paragraphs after the chaos starts. I'm guessing the reason why he didn't do that was because we want to build the suspense that Dan might already be dead. But you could have even he could have written a little section where it ends ambiguously as to whether or not Dan survives that encounter, and then we go back to Callan, and that I think would have ratcheted up that scene for me as a reader just a little bit more. But I mean, it worked well as was, but like I just was like, as a fan of like battle sequences and stuff, I was like, oh, we missed like a lot of it. I felt like so.
I feel like as an author, one of the things that's really difficult to get right is the moment before a battle begins, because you feel like there needs to be this tension of like before everything kicks off, where the reader gets this pause of like things are now going to kick off. I'm now going to be going into the battle with these characters, and I feel like when you're thrust into the battle, you don't have the same kind of experience with the battle as a reader, because you are kind of like suddenly it's action and it's like, okay, go time, and then but if you have that pause, so like it's a little bit like that scene where Gandalf is talking to is it Pippin or Merry?
Yeah, it's Pippin. Oh, I was
Pippin,
thinking
right?
also of a Lord of the Rings example, but I was thinking of Helm's Deep, when they're all
Yeah.
lining the walls and it's the rain and you can see the
Mm.
Uruk-hai coming up and marching up. I agree that I hadn't even considered that, like having that like pause moment to like
Mm.
sink in and like feel that anticipation, like when you're on a roller coaster and you're at the top right before it drops. But I wonder if that was intentional. I wonder if he did that
Yeah.
intentionally because the battle is a sneak attack. It's an assassination attempt. It is,
Yeah.
we are, as the reader, are as disoriented as the characters in this moment because they didn't see it coming either. So I feel that may have been an intentional choice, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I agree. And I think that he kind of made it work and pulled it off. I just think from an author perspective, if you're going to be writing a big battle at the end of your book one, one of the moments, what I would say is that this is very much, unless you're doing it with intent, follow the beats, right? Because Ryan just about pulls it off with this, but I was still felt like with like the way the fall is written, this giant battle. I know that he can write
Oh,
a
he's got the
battle
chops.
really well,
1,000%. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I feel a little bit like I would have loved more from the battle,
Like,
right? I would have
I'm
loved
greedy. I want more battles.
exactly right. Here's the way that if I was an author, I'd have fitted it in with what you were saying, MJ. Dan and Darlin at the pub, instead of just choosing to have another drink, hear something happening outside. Maybe somebody like comes into the pub and starts like killing people. Darlin goes for his sword, Dan goes for his bow, knocks his drink to the floor, or that kind of thing, and then knocks his bow off the table. And then there's like the sound of blood coming from behind him, like, and then cut. that to me would have been a really nice way of like, oh, okay, there's something happening. We don't know what's happening. We don't know that, but then as you're putting the pieces together, you're like, oh, the battle's started. I would have like that would have been the so what I put in my notes is that when they change perspective, I would have liked to have gone to different perspectives before the battle and not just at the end afterwards. So that would have been a nice way of like ratcheting up the tension and everything like that. Because my issue with this from an author point of view, this last third of the book is more along the lines of pacing with what happens with the dwarves. I think it's great, as I said before, that it works as like a giant prologue to the series. But in terms of a book in itself, I'd have just like cut the dwarves bit out and just that whole section replaced it with lead up to the battle, and then just have the dwarves as like a separate novella or that kind of thing. That's just how I would have done it. So it's really interesting seeing Ryan do it this way because it's kind of teaching me like, oh no, it's like there are more ways that it can work, right? But it kind of riles against everything my plot heavy brain is saying because my plot heavy brain is being like, nah, you need more resolution. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to, and it's like, no, not always. Like sometimes you can just go big and just keep going and like when you feel like you're going to get to the top of the mountain and get the view, you can just put more mountain there and be like, keep climbing, guys. Like, you're never going to get to the top. Like, and that's okay. I feel like that's Ryan showing a huge amount of trust in the readers, which I
Yeah.
love to see as an author. I'm terrified to do it myself. So
Dude,
that's the thing
that's like one of the things I get in notes all the time from my beta readers is like you got to trust your reader a little bit. And so yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's good example of like I always say character over everything. And since we love the characters, like since we are so on board to follow Callan, since we are so invested in the journey and the people that are on it, I think that aids in us being able to trust the author. You know what I mean? Like as the readers and be like, okay, this isn't going where I was expecting it to go at all. And instead of being like, oh God, like what is happening? It's more like, okay, what is happening? I think that there's that element as well that did work. Do we want to talk about world building?
Let's
Um,
do it. Yeah.
because there's a lot of world building heavy lifting done. Um, in these sections. I mean, we literally are introduced to two major new like civilizations basically in this section. There was like, well, I'm just gonna call out one detail to kick us off. Like, we'll start easy. But when they're in the tunnels, is it in the tunnels? They're somewhere because I called it out. But I think, yeah, they're in the tunnels and they're looking at the stone and they're running their fingers over the surface of the stone, and they say it was cut with the spark, right? And
Mm.
I love that detail because I think a lot of times as authors we forget to incorporate and braid in our like magic system into every element of the world. And it's like, okay, the spark, yes, we know you can use it for healing, you can use it in battle, we know there's all these like conflict and like big story arc related applications for the magic. But I like that detail of no, we use the spark for like infrastructure. You know what I mean? Like we're building stuff with it. We're carving tunnels with it. Um, I thought that was a good example of knitting the magic system into more than just what's immediately relevant to the plot.
What I really love about that observation as well is how you as a reader are building the world on a different layer to like what you initially were seeing it as because you are now perceiving it through the eyes of someone who's aware of magic. So everything that happens in the glade, you're seeing it from just description of the world. Now you're saying, right, this was built by the spark. You know what that is. You know that means something. You know what that means for the people who built it, for the people who use it, the ones who don't have magic, maybe not being aware of that, and the ones who do, the difference. And it adds layers to the world building, which I think is really, really cool. I think that's a really good observation, MJ. I like it. I like it a lot. Um, can I talk about, like, in terms of world building, the way that Ryan describes things with foreshadowing?
Yeah.
Because I really like an example of this when they go to Belduar, and the way he describes the bridge, he says this is the initial way he describes it. If he fell off that, well, Callan couldn't help but think if he fell off that bridge, he would keep falling until the end of time. Right? There's no need to put that in there. You can say there was a big drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the fact that he adds this threat to it gives us a little bit of foreshadowing. And that means when someone falls off it in the battle later, you don't need to show, like there's a threat
Yeah.
there, and it
You
makes
know what
everything a lot
happens.
more, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what a brilliant way to build a world, like incorporate threats that are gonna get payoff later, because it puts you as a reader on edge. You instantly have that connection, and you're
Yeah.
like, right, if anything, if these guys are going into Belgium, someone's going off the bridge, someone's
Yeah.
gonna
Well,
fall.
and it's like it gives you a nice like I always love descriptions in books like that that make me have like the visceral like physiological reaction I would also get were I looking down over the edge of the bridge, right?
Mm,
Which I feel like it's, it does that quite well there, which is nice.
yeah. What did you feel about the pacing of these chapters? Because like the pacing of the first part of the book we talked about was very deliberate, and the pacing here, you were like, one of your words was like fast paced, right?
Yeah.
So
It kicked up several notches, which is fair. I think that tends to happen in the back third to quarter of most books. Or most SFF, most genre fiction at least. Um no, it was very fast paced, and we were introduced to an awful lot in this section, which is why I like also did like Launchpad and like Expansive. Like this final third of this book does a lot of heavy lifting. I have a feeling, and I guess I don't know, I haven't seen him say it in any interviews or anything. I wonder if, because I know the other books in this series get quite long, I wonder if this is his debut, like right first published novel. I wonder if now he were to tackle the same story with the experience and like the knowledge that he has, if it would be like 200-300 pages longer. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have minded that. Like as a reader, I could have hung out in this book, this story, followed these characters on this specific part of this journey. I would have followed that for another 200-300 pages. So, and then I think the pacing might not have felt so fast in that last part. Also, though, like I'm a sucker for fast paced, so I don't tend to mind when it's very fast paced. I just have observed here that like, yeah, we could have slowed down a little bit and then appreciated some of the details a little more. But again, I would imagine in book 2, 3, 4, we're going to be spending a lot more time with the dwarves, with the characters, the kings, all of the people in these areas, and we'll get that time to really sink in and like marinate in those parts of the world. But yeah, I didn't feel like I fully got, especially the dwarves. I feel like I didn't really fully get, you know what I mean, like into the society there and into their story, which I'm sure we will in book 2. You know what I mean? We've got an appetizer. Now we want the meal. So sorry, my cat
yeah.
is like really excited. It's Evie. Everyone say hello.
Evie.
Yep.
I feel like Thorin and Evie are the perfect like representations of the first part of the story being like Thorin, and like the last part of the story being like Evie. Right? Thorin's just this really chilled out, like just wants his like snuggles and like
Oh my
sits on
God.
Mama's knee and gets patted, and then Evie's just like
Yeah.
chaos,
He's like
like
constantly knocking over all of my house decorations. Yeah. So we don't need scenes and sequels. We need Thorns and Evies.
yeah. I love it. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of really, really great stuff that I can draw from this. I feel like it's really interesting to read it from the author perspective and to see how Ryan has managed to write a book one that seemingly doesn't resolve anything and yet has people wanting more. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
that to me is fascinating. Like as an author, I think it's great. I could never do that. I could never write like that.
Here's the thing.
But
I
it's
love when I read books that do that though, because I tend to also like I tend to really stick to like the 7-point story arc when I'm plotting. At least I drift away from it and let the story take me where it takes me sometimes during drafting. But I'm a big like, okay, at plot point 3 we need to have a major death, and we need to have or the death of an idea, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a death of a person. And then at the climax we need to have this and that, and we need to do this circular thing. I think it's kind of freeing to be like, no, like you can just, if you just tell a damn good story with damn good characters, that people will come with you on that journey. You don't have to follow the formula every single time. Um, so I don't know. I feel like it's I also like I struggle not to, follow the formula myself though. And seeing how well it worked to just have it, be we are setting up a larger story. We are telling a big story and this is just a piece of it.
Mm.
I think I don't know. I'm going to try to take that with me into my future projects. You know what I mean? That like sense of MJ, you don't always have to follow the rules like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can, like, yeah, it's very much a case of trusting readers and like trusting that this is the first step. And because I think partly because Ryan released this initially self-published, he had that freedom to
Yeah.
be able to be like, do you know what? No, I'm not gonna just write this for like a 2 book deal. I have a story. I want to tell it, and I'm not gonna rush. I'm just gonna say this is the foundational book. This is the book that gives you an understanding of everything that's going to follow. And you can trust me. This is going to be okay. This is going to work out. I do know how to resolve a plot. It is going to be great. Like but you're going to have to wait until the
Yeah.
last book.
Gotta be patient,
You've got to
readers.
be patient, right? And I think that's part of the joy, a little bit of indie publishing, is that you can break the rules there in a different kind of way. Whereas, like, I feel
100%.
if like a publisher had picked this up, the notes would be bring back Heim, do it now, right? Like, it's
Right.
but
No,
yeah,
well,
because
that's
and
the
that's what
thing.
we're thinking. We're thinking like that's where it's gonna go the whole
Yeah.
time, and then it doesn't, and you're like, okay, but I have full confidence that by like book 4 or something, he's gonna show up, and it's
Yeah.
like
Or we'll
it's
find out why he's actually dead. You know what I mean? Like we don't
yeah,
believe it right now. Maybe by
yeah,
book 4 we will believe it.
mm,
Like
totally.
yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that's the thing I need to take. Like, know how you're releasing your book, how far you can push it,
Yeah.
and know that it's okay to break the rules and to trust your reader a little bit more. I feel like those are the main notes I'm taking. But yeah, I loved a lot about what Ryan did in this. I thought it was a really solid like book. I feel like I do feel like it's like clickbait for the series. Like you you click on it and you're expecting to like get something where you can be like, yeah, I did book 1, and instead it's just like, so this is the intro, and watch the next video to watch the actual thing that you clicked for. Like that's my I feel like you have no option but to watch the next video.
See,
So
that's it. You've been
mm,
swindled into the whole series now,
yeah,
Frasier.
exactly. He scammed me into it, and I love it.
You've been suckered in.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's all I got for Author Hat.
Yeah, that's all the main things I had too. Just a couple other things where I was just calling out like where I like the part when like multiple parts. It's like a very small detail of something that Ryan does where it's similar to like where we were talking about how he's processing the grief of losing his family in the last section. Like there's a part in where what is I forget what they're doing even, but Callan says Wrist would love this or like says it, like thinks it.
Mm,
And I just think like Ryan is so good at having those little sentences or like just little things that do so much lifting in terms of character and believability because it's like yes, he's accepted that he can't go save Wrist right now, but he's still very much thinking about Wrist. He hasn't forgotten about his friend. So there was a lot of things like that that reveal a lot about the character in just like a couple words.
mm,
So yeah, that's just another note that I will be taking from this book for myself. To remember that you don't always have to have like a big like mental breakdown about I can't go save Wrist right now every couple of pages. You can just snip in something like that where it's like, no, he's still
mm.
thinking about him. He's not forgotten his duty to his friend and he's gonna save him or try eventually. So
I think the other way that he uses that is he used the same technique to show a little bit of character growth because in chapter 23, so we talked about last week about how he has this like he's killed someone and he keeps going back to it in these like
yeah,
italics short sentences. Chapter 23, when they're like they've got creatures all around them, he says it's dead, get up, in his head, and I'm like, okay, that's character growth right there. So like it's such a cool way of the little details. There's a brilliant line. I'm trying to find it in here because I picked out a line and I absolutely like loved it. I cannot find it, but it was like it was just one of those things where I was like, this is, if you took this out of here and if it was just in, without context, oh, here it is. It's in chapter 30. Like, this is almost like an entire book in itself, this line, which is, Come Theron said, the day we stop learning is the day we will be consumed by what we do not know.
Ooh.
And I'm
I
like,
love
do you know what,
that.
in its context, you just read it. And it's just like you read it as part of what's being said and your eyes skim past it and you don't think about it at all. But actually slow down and like just take that in. And you're like, you know, that could be a whole book. That line.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ryan is so good at that. And I think this is what makes the book work so well, is that the lines are rich. It's been written in that kind of way. So you don't feel like you've been cheated by the book for the way it plays around with plot structure, because you still feel like you get to the end of the book and you're like, that was a really satisfying read. So, and I think part of what makes it that way is the style he's written in.
Yeah.
So again, like, know when to break the rules, but know what you have to do that, right? Because yeah, you got to leave people with that feeling of like, oh,
Yeah, right. Like I've gotten something. This has been a satisfying experience overall to read it. Yeah, I love it. That was all the author hat notes that I had. Are we
I'm off.
Unauthor hatting back to normal?
Unauthor hatting. Right. Now all we have to do to give the good people what they want, we have to sort of find a way of summing up this book. Final thoughts and summaries. MJ, you love Alani, right? The energy drink. Alani.
Yes.
Yeah. What's it? It's not blue sludge, is it? What's the blue one?
It's blue slush, not sludge.
Blue slush, right? Blue slush, right? How many blue slush Alanis would it take somebody to read Of Blood and Fire? So I'm not asking you to rate it, but this is just like, as you're reading it, if you needed an energy drink to get through it, right? How many blue slush Alanis would it take to read the book?
Oof. I'm gonna see. It's hard because I'm like, I will drink them every day regardless. But like, I feel like that's a question of like how many slow parts were there in the book, maybe.
You can take it as you like. Sometimes the action's going and you're like, oh, I've got to chug.
I gotta double down.
Yeah,
I like it. Okay, well, we'll say you're gonna have one in the beginning before you start reading to prepare yourself for the experience you're going to have. You can have another one when you finish chapter 11 because shit's about to go down, and then one before you dive into the dwarven tunnels because you're about to have a lot happening very quickly. And you're gonna I like that. You're gonna want to be like super alert so you can pay attention to all the details that are gonna be coming at you quite fast. So yeah, there we go. That's that. No, my overall impression is
3 Alani book.
3 Alani book, which I don't know what that means. That's what it is. But like, I like this book a lot. I think our predictions were way too ambitious because we forgot that, we didn't forget that it was a series, but like, I think we were too ambitious in what we thought was going to happen by the end of this book. But yeah, overall, I see why it is so beloved. I know we're not continuing on with the series for the book club, but I'm going to continue on with it just like in my own TBR because I want to find out what happens to Callan and the Wolfie Boy and the rest of the gang.
Yeah, I'm on the Cahill train. I'm like, choo-choo.
Right.
Like, yeah, I feel like if Keanu Reeves read this book, the way that he would describe it is probably like, it wouldn't be like a whoa, and it wouldn't be like a whoa. It would be like a whoa.
Excellent. So it's a subdued Keanu whoa.
It's like nice one, like whoa.
Like yeah.
I feel like that. Yeah, he'd tell Ryan he's breathtaking, then he'd read it and he'd go, whoa. That's how I describe this book.
I like it. I like
Mhm.
it. Well, I think that's all we have for Of Blood and Fire. Everyone that is out there watching, make sure you tune in next week because we have very exciting. We're gonna be talking to Ryan, just chatting through everything, making him apologize for inflicting Fritz upon us.
We're going to be giving him some therapy for how to treat handsome men in books.
Yeah, so we're gonna be, chatting with him, and then after that, we're diving into the next book, our February pick, which is Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan. So, everyone start trying to pick that one up now and get ready to kick off reading for that one. Yeah.
And don't forget to join the Discord and vote, because there is still time for you to vote for what we will be reading in March. So if you haven't done that already, vote for what we'll be reading, and then we'll announce next week when we talk to Ryan about what our March pick is going to be, which is very exciting. So yeah, thank you for being here with us, and we hope that you've enjoyed this journey. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.